Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Hello and welcome to Countryside here on Manx Radio. I'm Simon Clark.
And I'm Kirree. Well, after a successful visit to Balawn Quarry with UCM, I caught up with Andree Dubbeldam to talk about the island's saplings and tree planting, and also Alan Harrison from UCM about the agricultural course.
And also I catch up with Richard Crowe from Bishopscourt Farm to find out about his sheepdogs and how he's getting on with the lambing at this time of year. Well, firstly, Kirree, we spoke last week briefly about dog worrying and how concerning it is and how devastating it can be for livestock owners. So I went along to speak to Richard Crowe at Bishopscourt Farm. I spoke to Richard about many things, about his training of collies and sheepdogs, his participation in the sheepdog trials, the concerns about sheep worrying. But firstly, he was starting lambing. It was a usual time for him?
Yeah, this is the normal time that I lamb. It's probably one of the worst times to lamb, really, because it just started to go kind of really horrible, mild and wet kind of thing. But it just gives you a better chance with the lambs if you lamb them early. They do better and go on to thrive better, I think. Later on in the year, maybe April, May time, the lambs take a bit longer to do, I think, but it just suits our system, basically, lambing this time of the year.
Yeah, well, you say about warm and wet. Is that a bad thing for sheep and lambing, Tom?
Well, wet is, in a way. I suppose a cold wind is as bad as anything as well, but they can stand the cold a bit, but the rain is the worst, to be honest. They struggle to get dry again, and it's heavy going on lambs, really, to be honest. Like the first few days, once they get a few days on them, they can stand a fair bit of weather, but just the first few days it would be ideal if you had dry weather.
Are you inside with them lambing?
Yeah, I do. I lamb most of them indoors, but as soon as they've lambed, I try and get them out. It's more healthy. It's more a healthy environment outside, but it just saves my legs chasing after them, having them indoors.
But you've got dogs, and you're renowned on the Isle of Man, Richard, for having really good, useful sheepdogs and the training of them as well. I mean, how is that going? Is this not the season yet for sheepdog trials, but your dog needs to work all the year round, I suppose?
Yeah, they're just basically, my dogs are just doing general work. I'm trying to just keep a few young ones ticking over, really, but it's very hard to be running sheep this time of the year. It's so wet, tramping them around a field, you're making a muck. It's too hard on them, really, to be honest. Like I just try to keep my younger dogs ticking over, and me more experienced dogs are just doing mainly just work.
Yeah, I mean, when you're training them or getting them, they're good enough to come out and help with the sheep, is it good to have them paired with a more experienced one, or are they better kept away and learning on their own?
Sometimes if you maybe have a weakish dog, maybe a young dog that's inexperienced, and maybe, especially this time of the year, sheep can be very feisty, and you've got to be very careful with these young dogs. If they get picked on by a sheep, like really buttered and stuff, it can sicken them a little bit. So maybe an older dog sometimes with them as a bit of a, well, shall we say, an enforcer, that, he's got a bit of backup, does help. But to be honest, I'd be wary of you using a really young dog on sheep this time of the year, because it can deflate their confidence, really. So it's mainly my older dogs that will be working this year, and I'll be just ticking kind of my younger dogs on, maybe just on training lambs or something like that. So you just got to be really careful with dogs. You can knock their confidence with a really defensive ewe.
Well, we've heard a lot of talk and social media coverage of sheep and lambs being attacked by dogs. I mean, is that a worry when you're training sheepdogs, or collies mainly, I suppose, is it?
Well, they're all, I mean, the breeding is in them to herd sheep, but they're herding sheep for a reason. I suppose in years gone by, they'd be herding them to kill them. That's their natural instinct. So you've got to be really careful with collies, well, any dog really, once it gets a taste for chasing sheep, it's a very bad habit to try and get them out of. Obviously, I want them to chase sheep, but I have to mould them into my way of thinking. Their natural instinct is to herd them, but the herding is for a reason. It's to, gather them up and kind of, they are on for a kill, so it's up to you to mould them into, no, I don't want you to kill them, I want you to just herd them to me and we can work together, kind of thing.
And that, with training, after time, that they wouldn't hurt sheep even if they're out on their own?
Well, no. Once a dog is fully broken, they know when to switch on and when to switch off. But a dog that's not broken would never know when to switch off. Some of them wouldn't. They would just, they could smother them in a corner, just working them. It's not really the dog's fault. If the dog's out, if it doesn't know any different, it's only doing what it's been bred to do, really. So you do have to be very careful with collies and stuff, and be a responsible dog owner. If you don't want them chasing sheep, certainly don't encourage it and keep them on a lead.
Any dog then that's out in the country, some may be going to a new place for the first time on a public footpath or something, next to maybe fields that have got sheep in. It must be so tempting for the dogs, as you say. It's a natural instinct in them, and even if you think, oh, my dog wouldn't do it, or they've never done it before, I suppose they're all capable of it.
Oh, definitely, yeah. You've got to be so careful. Really, if you're going past a field of sheep, don't put your dog on the lead, because, as you say, everybody thinks their dog is wonderful, and I love dogs and stuff, but you just don't know with instinct and stuff in the dog. They could just take off, and you'll have a hell of a job to get them back. When I've been breaking young dogs and stuff, and you take them out in sheep on the first time, I could be there half an hour trying to catch them. They're working the sheep so hard, and they just... the
excitement of it.
Yeah, just the excitement of it and the enthusiasm. They don't want to give it up. So it's very hard to catch your dog after that. They will not answer, it's through... I do it in a controlled environment. But if you didn't do it in a controlled environment, like if you're out in a 20-acre field and you're trying to catch your dog, it's almost...
It's not going to take any notice.
No, it's going to be almost impossible. So, yeah, just be very careful.
But the training side of it, the sheepdog trial side of it that you're so into, so enjoy, must be so satisfying when you get a dog from a pup that you see out doing a sheepdog trial a few years later.
Yeah, it is. To be honest, I enjoy breaking young dogs more than I do trialing, to be honest. You get to a certain point, and sometimes in the training you feel, I'm not getting anywhere here, I'm really struggling. You just reach to the point, but then all of a sudden, I don't know what happens, they must just think it over one night and something clicks, and you just go, you're further on, and you get such an enjoyment when you see a dog progressing through the stages, and you get them up, and you've created a very useful tool for somebody, that they can go out and herd their sheep and stuff, and the dog, they love it. Once they're fully broken and they know what they're doing, there's nothing better.
And you have the sheepdog trials up on your farm during the summer months as well. Gets some good attractions from on island and off island as well.
Yeah. We seem to have kind of made a connection with some of the northern sheepdog handlers, Northern England's sheepdog handlers over there, and they loved coming over to the last Manannan sheepdog trials we had, and we're definitely going to repeat that. We're hoping to have it in September time, much the same time as we had it last year, and everybody's up there. There might be one or two more, but we're probably keeping it around about 30 dogs. I think that's manageable, and everyone can have a good run, and it's not too competitive as well. Everyone's willing each other on to do well.
Richard Crowe from Bishopscourt Farm there, enlightening us about the sheepdog trials that'll be coming up later in the year, and saying about the sheepdog worrying, which it can have devastating effects. And people thinking that, there's no physical damage, but, he heard them, he can talk about them, gathering them together and suffocating the sheep as well, Kirree, isn't it?
Indeed, it causes so much hassle and unrest with all involved. I see now in Scotland the protection of livestock, the new legislation that has come in there. There is 12-month imprisonments, there's up to £40,000 fines. They're taking this as a very serious matter. It's the untold damage, and it is that devastation and the suffering that goes on to all parties.
Yeah, but there we go. But obviously the training of it and the thought that your dog won't do it, well, they can. That was the message there. You're listening to Countryside here on Manx Radio with Kirree Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. But Kirree, on last week's theme, you've got another connection with it.
Yes, after last week I popped along to Isle of Man College to catch up with Alan Harrison, who's running the horticultural and agricultural courses there. But firstly, I spoke to Andree Dubbeldam about last week's tree planting and how it went at Balaun. Andree, well, we had a great time at Balaun last week, and now I'm catching up with you again back at Isle of Man College. How did the day go for you?
The day, well, it achieved all of its objectives. So we've got 200 or 300 trees planted, and it's created a sun trap habitat, and it's created a shelter belt. And I think it's created a very nice amenity. So quarries can be quite ugly places and quite noisy and quite dusty. Something that catches the noise, catches the dust, and provides a habitat. That's all good.
That is really good. And when we were there, we had a lovely visit down to the old disused quarry, now habitat itself.
Yeah, it's an area of special scientific interest, and quite deservedly so, because some of the rarest plants on the island occur there, plants like bee orchids. We've been able to reintroduce plants that have gone extinct there. So quaking grass, which has nearly disappeared from the island, has now been reintroduced there. They will only sustain themselves there if we can get sheep grazing on there. And the UCM have been able to fence it and make the habitat absolutely suitable for it. So the college students have facilitated this becoming a grazing habitat again. We'll get Locktons there because they are the most effective for that rough grazing and tackling the invasive species.
Now, they wouldn't eat the plants that you've put in particular?
Well, they will eat them, but what they'll do is they'll just prevent them from flowering. And every couple of years, we take the sheep off for a summer, let that flowering take place. But most wildflowers, they can take being nibbled and grazed year in, year out, and they're just waiting for that opportunity. But what's more important is to stop the really invasive species like Cotoneaster and Buddleia that are quite pernicious there from taking over and destroying the habitat. And that's where only sheep can do that. Yeah,
and it's nice to see that they can work in harmony, because sometimes sheep do get bad press, especially in the neighbours' gardens.
Yeah, well, let's hope the fencing that the UCM have put up will hold them. But Locktons are escape artists, and we'll have to work with them for a bit.
And we saw last week the trees being planted. Now, the supply of trees and the supply of flowers, this is something you're in charge of.
Well, yeah, I've tried to make sure that we get Manx native wherever possible. Some of the trees that went in last year are British native and native to the Isle of Man, but the rare species we put in, they've all been collected from seed in the wild on the Isle of Man, grown here at UCM by UCM students, and then reintroduced into the wild. And some of these species are extinct in the wild.
Wow,
so last week we planted a griminy. And that went extinct about 12 years ago when the airport extension occurred. Okay. And we've held that in cultivation at UCM and other places all those years, awaiting for Balaun to come to fruition and become a sustainable place for them.
Well, that says something else, isn't it? But that, for you, that feeling you must get from seeing this over the years must be very special.
Yeah, it's a really long-term gain. So 12 years is a long time to run a conservation programme. And I've been really lucky, both at UCM and at the Wildlife Trust, for the long-term support. As I say, organisations like COLAS and DEFA and the college here, they don't just support you for a year or two. It just goes on and you see these projects through. It's really good.
It is really good. And talking about seeing it through, your students, they start off as little acorns, I suppose, and then they do grow into great students and into other workplaces.
Yeah, so here at UCM, our level 1 course, it starts off as very much a land-based industries course, and the students could go on to agriculture, they could go on to landscape gardening, groundskeeping, tree surgery, equine, they could go into maintenance gardening. So they've got a lot of choices, and I think at the level 1, what's really important is for them to know that they don't just fall into a job, but they choose a career. A lot of them are vocationally minded, and they want to do... they want to work outside, but giving them that taster to decide exactly where they work outside is so important.
And that progression, Alan, you're saying when they go into level 2, they can really go on.
Yeah, so one of the units is work experience. So as I said before, we're sending out about 13 students to different places. And what they'll do is actually choose a career, and it could just be a career where they're looking at doing, say, summer seasonal work. And how they progress into actually getting into that position to be maybe an assistant gardener, to a head gardener, and then to somebody who looks after the whole portfolio of estates that they're looking after. And they'll look at what sort of timeline that'll take, what sort of professional qualifications they'll need, and the cost of those, and just see what they can do from one to the other, so they don't get stuck into that dead-end job that they look at and just go, right, I'm just going to be a grass cutter for the rest of my life. It could be that I'd actually progress that way. So it's like that analogy you used with the acorn. They'll start as an acorn and progress to an oak tree. Yeah. So it's all a case of how do you get it up to that oak tree, and how they progress and how wide their branches want to go and things like that. So. And
Andree, you've been with the college students for a good number of years now. How do you see horticulture and people just wanting to get involved with the countryside progressing?
I think the land-based industries is expanding all the time. It has been expanding steadily for probably the last 2 decades, and it's expanding steadily more. Now, there are some places that are perhaps contracting a bit. So commercial horticulture, there is very little now. I think the cannabis farms that might be progressing, that could be a route to commercial horticulture. But when the rose factory, or where the cut rose factory went, that was pretty much the end of a lot of commercial horticulture. So that area is a bit more abound, but everything else is really just progressing year on year. It's getting more and more professional as well. And I think UCM have probably been able to help in this. Make the industry safer, because it is a dangerous industry. Farming and horticulture and tree surgery, they're all really dangerous professions. And to increase that standard. Making the island more beautiful, I mean, that should be a mantra. That should be something that we're all wanting to do.
And with that, you say the UNESCO biosphere, which we achieved, it is the highest status we can get, isn't it?
As an island, I think that is a really big status for us, and it's not just about biodiversity. It's about the culture of the island. It's about so many things that intertwine. But making the island beautiful and just caring and loving for it, that is a part of it. Yes.
Yeah. So, like Andree touched on there, Alan, the UNESCO biosphere is one of the best statuses, but people want to get involved with the great outdoors. How do they go about applying to get on some of these land-based courses?
So the full-time courses are available on the UCM website. So you go on to the full-time applications, find the course that you want, whether that's landscaping or horticulture, and apply for it there. So the course is filling up fast, so just make sure people get in to avoid disappointment of missing out. The short courses which you run, so the PAs, the pesticide applications, and the use of mowers and strip trimmers, they're available on the website again, but they are part-time courses. So you fill out a part-time application form, send it in, and we get back to you when the courses will be running.
Last week at Blount, we had a really great morning planting trees with the college students. It was a wild morning. How did it go eventually?
It went really well. So we got all 500 trees planted, which was really testament to the students themselves who really went for it and put them in. And by the end of the day, it was all planted up and ready to go. And I think everyone enjoyed the day because they were able to get to the end of it and just finish it and go, yeah, that's a job that I've done.
But that there, Alan, is for the future. It's for years and years ahead.
Yeah, and being close to a footpath, again, it would be one of those places where somebody can just, a destination to walk past and go, look at those trees. I planted those 20 years ago. They could be going past with their children. 40 years, they could be going past with their grandchildren and going, that's something I did.
Now, with horticulture, it used to be agriculture as well. Is this something UCM are keen to bring back to the fore?
Yeah, well, it's never really gone away. It's just that the interest has to be there. If we don't get the applications for the course, then obviously we don't get the numbers, we can't run the course. But the course is there ready to go if we ever get the interest in it.
See, that is something that's really positive, because there is a lot of younger agricultural people out there, I suppose. There is lots so actively involved with agriculture and farming. So how would they get involved?
So there is a level 2 course which is run as an NVQ, so that means that they're in a workplace and we'll go out and assess them doing certain units and things. They'll be in for 1 day a week where they're able to use the portfolio, which is an online portfolio, because we found that the students struggled a lot with the paper portfolios, just for the fact that some of the environments they work in can be quite messy and quite mucky.
Yeah, certainly.
So they've always got their phones on them, so they can take a picture of the evidence, make sure they're in it, and then they can upload it.
That is really, really simple, because I can remember many moons ago when I did the agricultural course, I thoroughly enjoyed it and learnt so much, and it was through Isle of Man College. It's nice to know it's still there, but obviously advancing in technology as well. With the various courses you have at UCM, there is still spraying courses and health and safety courses that you still offer out.
So yeah, the ones we've talked about so far are our bread and butter, they're our full-time courses, but we do short courses. So we run a safe use in mowers course at the minute, which will teach you how to use it, how to set it up, and that's NTPC, which is City and Guilds. I'm in the process of just doing an application now to run a brush cutter and trimmer course, so that'll be ready for next term from September. We run a PA1, which is the legislation for your pesticide application, your PA2, which is tractor driven, and then PA6, which is your handheld knapsack as well.
Yeah. And how would you like to see the UCM develop in the horticulture and agricultural side of things?
So the way we're doing it now is it's all online portfolios, which has helped immensely, really. I can see you there nodding.
Yes,
you thought
definitely.
you had that a few years ago. It could have definitely helped. So yeah, that has been a big plus point for me this year. We've had a lot of students on level 2 this year. We're normally around about the 6 to 8 mark, and this year we're up around 15, 16.
Excellent. Yeah.
So that has definitely helped. Trying to look through paper portfolios for that many people, it used to be quite a laborious task, whereas now it's all on one page.
Yeah.
So my time can be spent actually getting the quality in there rather than just satisfying criteria, which I think has definitely helped.
Yeah. And you've got a good team here at UCM.
Yes, couldn't live without my technician. He's brilliant, keeps me sane, keeps me going. And Andree, with his other job, the Manx Wildlife Trust, his knowledge within the plants and looking after flowers and trees and things like that is immense, really, compared to me, who I was more grass based as I came in.
Yeah.
So we're a perfect complement for each other. I love grass, whereas he sees grass as a weed,
Yes.
and then I see his plantains and things which he sees as a weed, and I see as the weeds, and he sees them as flowers.
Yeah, that's
So it's a good. We have banter that way and things, but yeah, it's a really good mix.
And that does bring an awful lot of knowledge to the course itself. But with that, it's open to all ages.
Yeah, so from 16 leaving school, we've had people coming in, and we've also this year had a 54-year-old lady who's she's in the middle of just at the minute applying for work experience, things like that, and I've just seen her CV, and it's she's been working in Thailand, Asia, and at trust level she owns a company which has 500 people in there. But she's decided to have a little bit of a change with COVID coming along, and she wants to do horticulture, see something with her hands, and finish a job and just go, I did that.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing.
And that job satisfaction, it pays dividends, doesn't it, really? You can sometimes get in that fast lane and get lost.
Exactly. So I heard Andree say it the other day that grounds care and horticulture has the biggest job satisfaction of anything in Great Britain, which I thought was an interesting...
Now, there's lots of different elements to the portfolio. Alan, where do the students manage to get the experience, the practical experience for this?
So quite a lot of it is done at college, but we also try and help out any sort of local charities. So that's where our link with Manx Wildlife Trust came in, where we ended up being able to plant their trees for them, which is really good. But we've also cut hedges for Autism Initiative. So we go down to there once a year, give their hedge a cut, and yeah, just...
And they gain that experience from doing that, and they learn the right techniques, and nothing better than hands-on. And this is setting them up in good stead to go out and apply for jobs.
Definitely, yeah. So there's there hasn't been a year where we haven't gained people employment throughout the year. As I say, they're applying for work experience at the minute, so there's 13 students going out in different various placements around the island, and that can be from working in Watson's right the way through to country estates, which is a wide, vast variety of different things they can do.
Nathan, now I caught up with you last week down at Blount and it was a very blustery day. How did the day go for you?
Very well. We managed to plant 500 trees between us.
That's a long morning.
Yeah. In the good weather though.
Oh yeah. But with that, Nathan, obviously you're doing the course at Isle of Man College here. You're here 2 days a week. How do you find the course generally?
Very enjoyable. Teachers all great and friendly.
Yeah, good.
And all the pupils as well, we all get along.
Yeah.
Have a laugh, and at the end of the day it's just all good fun. It definitely opens a lot of doors on the outside world.
Yeah.
To help you progress into other stuff.
What would you like to do long term?
Run my own business in gardening and everything that's possible. Just be that handyman.
Yeah, and with that, with this course, it looks like it's touching on an awful lot of elements.
Yes, it is. You get a taste of everything to see what you want to do outside of it as well.
We've got Dylan here. Dylan, you were part of the tree planting scheme at Blount there as well. So how did you get involved with the course here at college?
Well, I was looking online and like I was applying for jobs and stuff like that, and there was nothing really that suited me, and I just thought like I want to open my own business, and then I was like thinking what I want to do, and then like being a like outdoor worker, like even gardening maintenance or anything like that, like just kind of like spoke to me.
And what kind of work are you hoping to go into from this?
I'm wanting to open a garden maintenance business. I'm basically copying Nathan.
Yeah.
Nathan's copying me.
but that there, though, the two of you, there's lots of opportunity here on the Isle of Man. You know, we have got some beautiful gardens, beautiful areas that do need upkeep.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I'm hoping to get, like, a couple of contracts as well, like, you know, when I open my own business and then, like, settle myself out and do, like, some standard just gardening jobs at the same time. Just, like, you know, so I have, like, a good wage coming in.
And with that, learning the new techniques and what you need to run your business, like you say, and having that broad knowledge, I suppose, it leaves lots of avenues open for you when you leave, you know, when you've qualified.
Well, I can imagine I can come back and ask the teachers for some help if I ever need to.
That was some of the students from UCM. Alan Harrison from the horticultural and agricultural courses, and Andree Dubbeldam, the lecturer and also Manx Wildlife Trust officer.
A lot of passion between all those people and reflecting on the youngsters too.
Really was. The youngsters are fully enjoying that course there at Isle of Man College, but it's really great to hear that the agricultural course is still going strong and they're looking for students to get involved, and it's full-time courses or part-time courses. They do lots on animal husbandry, the courses for sheep dipping, hoof trimming and sheep shearing. These are all certificated. You can do those courses by just ringing up UCM and getting involved there.
You got a mention of something before we finish, Kirree?
That's right, a busy Manx weekend coming up. We've got the World Championship bonnet competition out at St James's there in Dorby on Friday night, and then up to the Braid Hall for the annual Eisteddfod on the Saturday night.
OK, we'll have to leave it there for this week's Countryside. We're back next week with more. So until then, from me, Simon Clark.
And me, Kirree Kermit.
We'll see you next week. Ta-da.